Good morning, everyone. So I've written a few reminders from the lectures of yesterday on the blackboard. So let me remind you that we started from the problem of trajectory inference, where we had this population of particles that was evolving in a space, which we call X, and our goal was from certain types of measurements. So namely, we were measuring the position of sampled particles at certain times, T1 until Tm, of these particles. We wanted to recover the dynamics of this full population. So that will be the end goal of this talk. I will already show you the final method that we will understand at the end of these lectures. But to progress towards this goal, we have started with a simpler problem, which was the case where we only observe at 2 times a population of particles, okay? And we observe the full distribution. This is the probability distributions mu and nu. And we were wondering what is the most likely evolution in between these 2 times, given that we observe the population at time 0 and time 1. And we had made the assumption, which was made in this problem posed by Schrödinger, that the particles were just following a pure noise, for instance, a Brownian motion, although in fact this problem could be posed for much more general reference processes, but let's focus on the Brownian motion for simplicity. And we have seen that this problem could be, after a series of reformulation, posed as a regularized optimal transport problem. So let me remind you the notation. So we have H between any pair of probability measures. This is the relative entropy defined. I recall the definition here. This is a very important object in a lot of mathematical domains. The cost function that we use in our reformulation as optimal transport was obtained as minus tau, the logarithm of the density of the heat kernel. So this is a bit complicated. It's in your notes from yesterday, but you can think of it as just the square distance cost. It's not so different from that. In particular, it has these kind of regularities. And then we had, after a little bit of work, we have shown that to solve the original Schrödinger problem, which was to recover a full dynamics over the space, to recover a probability distribution over the space of path, it was sufficient to solve this problem, where here we are only optimizing over the space of transport plans. So transport plans is the same concept as in Filippo's lecture. When we have 2 probability measures, these are probability measures on the product space x times x, with first marginal mu and second marginal nu. And we minimize this regularized optimal transport problem. So without the second term, this would be an exact standard optimal transport problem. And now we add tau. Tau is the diffusivity parameter that we suppose we know a priori. It's the level of the noise, or the temperature. I will call it the temperature today, times h of gamma. So h of gamma is the relative entropy between gamma and the Lebesgue measure. So one subtlety here is that the Lebesgue measure is not necessarily normalized, so it's not necessarily a probability measure. So this quantity is not always non-negative. That's a small subtlety when you use relative entropy with unnormalized measures. But anyways, this is the problem we obtain. And this problem with some standard arguments of weak compactness of the set of transport plans and lower semi-continuity of the objective function, it admits, and it's also strictly convex thanks to relative entropy term, so it admits a unique solution under the condition that mu and nu are absolutely continuous with densities. And this is a bit annoying because we would like to use our problem in practice, where in practice what we observe are points. So our probability measures mu and nu will be empirical distributions made from atoms. So the first thing that I want to do today is to reformulate this problem by changing a little bit so that it's always well defined, even if my measures do not have absolutely continuous densities. And then we'll obtain a problem which will be called entropic optimal transport. And I will compare the properties of this modified optimal transport with entropy and the standard one. That will be what we will start from with today. So if you have any question, you can interrupt me. So let us start with this change of reference measure to pose the problem in a more general way. So we'll start with a remark that if I take a gamma, any transport plan between mu and nu, then the relative entropy of gamma with respect to the project measure mu times nu. So this, I can rewrite it as follows. I introduce the Lebesgue density in between. Okay, so I just wrote the definition of the relative entropy, and I make appear the Lebesgue distribution. Here, this is also, so this is the Lebesgue distribution on x times x here. Let me make it precise. Lebesgue on x times x, which is also the same as Lebesgue on x times Lebesgue on x. This is the product measure. So I can separate all these terms, and I obtain that this is h of gamma minus h of mu minus h of nu. Of course, valid if all these terms are finite. And so we see that if I can replace this reference measure, I will just shift the value of this problem. And so we will define the entropic optimal transport problem as follows. Entropic optimal transport as the very slight modification of this problem where instead of the relative entropy with respect to Lebesgue, we take the product measure as a reference measure. So the problem where we minimize the same objective function, except that now the reference is the product measure. Under the same constraint, subject to gamma is a transport plan between mu and nu. And I will give the name T to this minimum. Okay, so this is what we call entropic optimal transport, and this is when we want to use optimal transport in practice. This is often a good proxy that you should use because it's well behaved in many ways, and I will show you some of those. So first remark is the link between this quantity and this one. So obviously, when mu and nu have finite density, it holds that T lambda of mu nu is equal to S lambda of mu nu. And here I've used this term instead of this one, so I have minus h of mu minus h of nu. And this is when both relative entropy are finite. Both marginals have finite entropy. And another remark, and that what makes this problem better posed, is that here it will be always finite. In particular, we are on a compact. I have a continuous cost, so there's no issue of integrability. And you can always take a feasible point by taking mu times nu, which is a transport plan between mu and nu, which will have a finite cost. And so here, whatever the two marginals you take, it will be finite. So T lambda is finite, whatever the pair of measures you take. And we have the same property that this is a strictly convex problem which admits a minimizer. This is, again, the same kind of arguments. And the minimizers, when both problems are well defined, will be the same because you only shift the objective function by a constant. Okay? So same minimizers when both exist. Maybe I should write it here because this is when both exist. And same minimizer gamma star. Okay. The next step now will be to write the dual formulation of this problem. Because when we will want to solve this problem with numerical methods, will typically solve the dual problem and then come back to the dual using the primal dual relationships. And I think, so I was not there for the first lecture of Filippo, but he most probably told you about the dual formulation of optimal transport. And you'll see that this regularization in the primal will also correspond to a dual regularization. So let me write it. I will not justify it, but if you want to prove it, you can just use an application of Fenchel-Rockefeller theorem. And I will just give the formula. We have that Tito of mu nu, it is equal to the supremum, and the supremum will be attained by similar arguments than for the optimal transport problem. So over phi and psi continuous functions over x. So continuous functions over x which are real valued, which will be the regularized version of the Kantorovich potentials of the integral of phi against d mu plus psi d nu. So this is very similar to what you had for optimal transport. There was a constraint on the relationship between phi and psi for optimal transport, but now there will be no constraint except there will be a penalization term in the dual, which will be plus tau times 1 minus an integral of exponential phi of x plus psi of y minus c of xy divided by tau integrated against d mu of x d nu of y. So this may be a... So this first term is the classical one for optimal transport. And this one is the new one we get, which comes from the regularization. And now we don't have constraints. So we have an unconstrained dual problem. But if you remember, for optimal transport, so for OT, we had the constraint phi of x plus psi of y always smaller than c of xy. So for all pair of xy in x. And here we have replaced this hard constraint by an exponential barrier. So when this constraint is broken, this exponential term becomes large, and since we want to maximize it and we have a negative minus sign here, this will prevent this constraint to be broken too much. Okay? So instead of the hard constraint, we have this exponential barrier in the dual. All right. And this is a concave problem that we maximize. Here we have a convex problem, we minimize. Here we have a concave. And we have the primal dual relationship, which says that at optimality, we can recover the solution, so the optimal transport plan, from this solution of the dual problem by the following relationship. We have that gamma is given by, in fact, this is exactly this measure that we integrate in the dual. So at gamma, at optimality, we have we can recover the optimal transport plan from the potentials by taking this exponential. So you can remark that since at optimality, gamma, we know it's a probability measure. So this integral here, because this is the integral of the optimal transport plan at optimality, it will vanish. And so at optimality, the cost is just the integral of phi d mu plus psi d nu. The second term will vanish. These are small remarks about the structure of this problem that when you start to work on it, they are very useful. Here I just mentioned them. If in case at some point you'll cross this problem, they are very useful. Okay, so another remark about this dual problem and what it tells us. And again, these are remarks that we had similar remarks for the basic optimal transport problem, is that if I look at t as a function, say, of mu, so the function which to mu maps t tau of mu nu for certain fixed nu, well, you observe here that this is, in fact, the supremum of a family of linear continuous functionals of mu, because I just integrate mu against a complicated function. For each phi psi, I integrate mu against something complicated. And then I take the supremum of all these functions. So I have a supremum of linear functions. This is convex. So this function is convex. These remarks will be important for the following. However, you notice that it's not jointly convex in mu and nu, because as a function of mu nu, here this is not linear. This is, there is this product, joint product measure. So we lose this remark when we look at the joint function, but we'll need the following remark, that the function which to mu nu maps t of mu nu plus tau times the entropy of mu or of nu, I just need to add the entropy of one of the two, is convex also. So why is it the case? Although, okay. Why is it the case is that, in fact, if I look at the dual of the original Schrödinger problem, so without changing the reference measure, then I have exactly the same dual, except that here I integrate against the Lebesgue measure, dx and dy. So in that case, the Schrödinger problem, it will be jointly convex in both measures, because I don't have the problem that I integrate against this product measure. And in fact, it's sufficient to add one of the two entropies to get rid of this product here. Like if, in this case, if I add just one entropy, the dual is just this formula, which is linear in both mu, jointly linear in mu nu. So this is the remark that it's the supremum of linear functions works when I just add one of the entropies, and that will be crucial for our conclusion later, so that's why I'm mentioning it. That this function here is convex, because convexity is often useful when you want to minimize problems. So here I discussed a bit the relationships between the dual formulation of optimal transport and of entropic optimal transport. I will continue to discuss their relationships. So EOT is entropic optimal transport, and OT is the classical optimal transport. First remark that it's good to start from is that when we take tau to 0, we recover the optimal transport problem in a certain sense. So there are many statements that could be made to formalize that. What I will say is that we have that the optimal transport plan gamma tau as it converges weakly when tau, okay, sorry. As tau tends to 0, it converges weakly, so I write this with a W, to the optimal transport plan, so I will call it gamma 0 star, so when tau equals to 0, this is the standard optimal transport problem. So here what I mean is that if this solution is unique, you will converge to it. If it's not unique, up to a subsequence, you can converge to one of the minimizers. So this is not exactly a convergence. So up to a subsequence, if you don't have uniqueness in the optimal transport problem, and when tau tends to plus infinity, we also have weak convergence to what? Maybe you can guess when the regularization goes very large. So the relative entropy term will become predominant in this problem. And so we'll end up minimizing this term, in fact, because tau will be large. And this term is minimized when gamma equals the product measure. So here, we converge to the product measure when tau increases. So this gives us a small idea of how this problem will behave. I will attempt to make a drawing. So let's consider a one-dimensional space X. And I will plot the product space X times X here in between. And I will have two marginals, mu and nu. So let me plot, for instance, mu like that. I don't want to draw it inside this square to leave the room to draw the transport plan, so I draw it upside down. And then this will be mu, this will be nu, two densities that I represent as densities on the real line. The optimal transport plan in this case, I don't know if Filippo told you about that, but in the 1D case, in particular with such strictly convex costs, this just amounts to monotonously rearranging the masses of the two distributions. And here it will be concentrated on the graph of a strictly increasing function, which should map mu to nu. So let me try to plot such a thing. OK. So here I should, OK. This will be something like that. Because what I want is that the mass, I know it's the opposite, sorry. It does not really matter for what I want to say, but I need to slow down when I encounter one of the modes of this distribution. So this is something like that. Because what I want is that the mass that is in this area is to be the same as the mass that is in this area, because this is what is transported here. So this is the support of the optimal transport plan with zero regularization in this case. It's concentrated on the graph of a strictly increasing function, or increasing, strictly increasing if I have smooth densities with lower bounded mass. And here, what this entropic regularization will do is it will favor more diffuse solutions, okay? Because we have we have an entropic term, and so we'll end up with a transport plan which is just a smooth version of this one. So it will be something like that. When tau grows very large, we converge to the product measure, so which sends all the, like any point of mu will be sent to all the points of mu. And when tau varies, we interpolate between these two behaviors, okay? How do we how do we prove? So I will just give some argument by talking this convergence. So for instance, here, for the convergence when tau goes to 0, it's easy to show that this cost when tau goes to 0 goes to the optimal transport cost, because you can build an approximation, a sequence of approximation of your optimal transport plan that have finite entropy, but which are a little bit smoothed, that concentrate on gamma, on the optimal transport plan little by little. And so you can prove that this cost goes to 0. And by lower semi-continuity, if you take a minimized sequence for any sequence of tau, it has to converge to an optimal solution. So, and then it depends whether we have uniqueness or not. I know that someone in the room is precisely working on this problem to characterize when there is no uniqueness, what kind of minimizer we select. Yeah, here. So this is a very interesting problem. And then when tau goes to plus infinity, again, we have to use the lower semi-continuity of the relative entropy to prove that in the limit, we must have that the optimal transport plan has an entropy 0, otherwise, because tau goes to plus infinity, the cost would explode. Okay, so that's the general behavior of this entropy regularization. Now let me give maybe a more another argument. Now I will give arguments that say why this regularization may be a good idea in practice. So this regularization is more stable. There are various ways to formalize it, but since I'm interested in a high-dimensional problem, I will just show you the stability under independent sampling. So let's say I have n samples from mu, which are IID and n samples from new, which are also IID. And we can wonder how fast, by just replacing mu and nu by the empirical distribution, how fast we converge to the true cost. Okay? And we have the following result, that the expectation of this, of the cost that we have by taking the empirical distribution instead of the true distributions. So here mu hat n is the empirical distribution of my IID samples, and mu at n is the empirical distribution of my IID samples of y's, of nu. So if I try to estimate the true transport cost with entropic realization by replacing the measures by their empirical estimations, so first notice that I could not do this with the first problem because this one is only well defined when I have absolutely continuous measures. This one I can always define it. And here we have the following bounds. So these are up to constants. So I write these bounds like that. So in case tau equals to 0, which is the optimal transport problem, we have a bound in n to the minus d over 2. So d is the dimension of x, n is the number of samples, and so when when d is quite large, this decreases very slowly. And this is only valid when dimension here is larger than 4. And this is tight in the sense that you can find measures mu and nu such that, in fact, this is an equality up to constants. And when I have, so that this is when tau equals, when tau is equals to 0, and d larger than 4, this is tight. So we cannot improve this rate. And when tau is larger than 0, we have a much faster convergence rate. So let me remember. Okay. 1 plus, so there is a constant that depends on tau, but the dependency in n is n to the minus 1/2. This means that I will always decay at the same rate, whatever the dimension, while for the unregularized problem, the larger the dimension, the slower the rate of estimation. So if you want to know more about this kind of results, so these are taken from a paper I have with co-authors from 2020, where we have proved these rates for the optimal transport problem, and slightly improved those for the entropic optimal transport problem, but there's a lot of literature on this kind of questions. And at least this tells us that it's a much better idea when you work with discretized measures to use entropic optimal transport, because it's much more stable, much more easy to estimate from discrete distributions. Another argument in favor of entropic optimal transport, in practice, it is its computational tractability. So the original optimal transport problem, if you want to solve it, you can use, you can notice that it's a linear program and use the simplex or other methods like that that are designed for linear programs. And you have a complexity for discrete measures with n atoms that scales like n to the cube, typically. But for the entropic optimal transport problem, you have the Sinkhorn algorithm. So let me, and it's so simple that I can write it on the blackboard here. So we have an efficient computational method via the so-called Sinkhorn's algorithm. At what time did I start? At 15? Yeah, okay. So Sinkhorn's algorithm. Let me write it first in the continuous case, because it's an algorithm I can write even when I have continuous marginals, but of course you can only implement it when you discretize it. It goes as follows. So you initiate, what you try to find with Synchron algorithm are solutions of this dual problem. So we will carry these two variables phi and psi, and we just do alternate maximization on this problem. Which means that we start from phi and psi equal to 0. I fix psi, I optimize phi. Here you can just write down the optimality condition. And then you fix the new phi that you have found. You maximize over psi. You can also get closed form optimality condition and alternate on these two variables. This gives the following algorithm. So phi 0, psi 0, or 0. So these are continuous functions on x. You set them to 0. And then you repeat. Let's say I take k as an index. It goes from 1, 2, etc. until your stopping criterion. So you define phi k plus 1. So let's say I fix psi and optimize over phi. If you write down just the first order optimality condition, you notice that you have to set this value to phi. So minus tau logarithm of the integral over x of exponential of psi of y minus c of xy over tau d nu y. So here, this is what I obtain if I fix psi k, and I want to maximize the value of the function phi for this objective function. And then I do the same for the other variable. So psi k plus 1 of y is given by minus tau log integral of exponential of phi k plus 1, because I take the one which I have already computed, minus c of xy divided by tau d nu of x. And you just repeat this, and you converge to the solution. So there are various ways to prove it converges, which I will not discuss, but we have also convergence rates. And since discussing convergence rates requires to discuss optimality criterion and so on, I don't want to really go in this direction, but this is an algorithm. So far, I just wrote it in the continuous case. I will write how you can really easily implement it in practice. But let me start with one remark before writing the algorithm in the discrete case, which is that this update, in fact, if I have psi, let's say I take a function psi, this quantity defines a continuous function over the space x, even if psi is just, how to say, like if nu is discrete, so psi need only be defined on the support of nu, but here we'll always have a continuous function on x. And this will be a fact that will be useful later. So let me just write that at optimality, so when we converge, we wait for the convergence of this algorithm, the function phi psi, which are defined by these iterates, they are the differential of the function t of mu nu. And again, this is something that is very useful in practice. So in fact, all the information you need about t of mu nu, they are encoded in these iterations. It's sometimes a bit hard to see it, but these two functions that you get at convergence, I would say, instead of optimality, these are the differential of t tau. So what does it mean? For instance, if I take a small perturbation of nu, so this means that if I take t tau of mu, sorry, I will perturb mu a little bit, but I still want to remain a probability measure, so I need to do a convex combination of nu with another probability measure, let's say tau, minus t tau of mu nu. So here I want to compute the differential of t tau at mu nu. I will just consider the differential against the first variable. So I consider the small perturbation of mu of the form epsilon times sigma times mu minus mu. So this is equal to integral of psi against d mu sigma minus mu times epsilon plus a little o of epsilon, which is in fact a big O of epsilon squared. Like we can show a lot of smoothness property of t sigma of t tau. But what I mean by this are the differential is just that in the standard sense, you can compute the variations of this regularized optimal transport cost by using these functions, phi and psi. So do you have questions so far? Now what I want to do to make it a bit more practical is to write down this algorithm for discrete measures, which just amounts to replacing these iterates by what you obtain when you have discrete measures. So it's just a change of formula, but it's more concrete. Yes?
I don't understand the convergence rate when tau is 0. Are you sure?
OK, so when tau is 0, this is an upper bound n to the minus d over 2 in a large dimension, d larger than 4.
So it seems better when d is 1.
Sorry?
It seems better when d is 1.
Ah, sorry, yeah, yes, it's 2 over d, thank you. This is the kind of questions that I like, because otherwise everyone has the wrong formula. Yeah, it has to be the thing which is wrong, which is worse when d increases. So now let me write down the formula of the updates of Synchron algorithm in the case where I have two measures of this form, which are empirical distributions of atoms. So in the discrete case, so I take mu hat n and nu hat n, so two empirical distributions with n atoms. I could even add weights, but this would make formula slightly more complicated. So, and this is again just this formula which I will instantiate. We can define the following. So I could write this iterates in the same with the same variables, but there's even a reformulation which makes it very easy to implement. I can define ak to be the exponential of phi k. Sorry, I will consider vectors, okay. A, where the entry ai is the exponential of phi of xi over tau. So here, in the discrete case, I only care about the value of phi and psi on the support of nu and nu, okay? So I can encode the potentials with just finite dimensional vectors with n entries. Bj will be exponential of psi of yj divided by tau. And I can encode all the information that I need about the cost. Again, I only need it on the support of the project measure mu times nu. And so I can define a matrix Kij, which is the exponential of minus c xi yj over tau. So I will write the algorithm in these new variables, which are the exponentiated variable, and you'll see that. So I just take the exponential on both sides. So I have the update of A will be just the inverse of this integral, which here is just the product k times b in the discrete case. Maybe I should divide by n to include this the 1 over n in front of mu hat. And so we have the following algorithm. We initialize A and B equal to the function which is equal, so the vector of ones in R to the n. So it's just a vector of size n with 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, because this is exponential of 0, okay? And then I repeat the following synchronous updates. So A, I define it as 1, so the vector of ones divided entry-wise, sorry, the entry-wise division so I will explain what this formula means, but this is really what we obtain. Here, A is a vector, K is a n by n matrix, Ka is the matrix vector product. I obtain a vector. I just take the entry-wise inverse of this vector. Sorry, here this is Kb, K transpose A, okay. And then I take my new vector, I apply K transpose, and then I inverse entry by entry, I get B, and you repeat that, and in the end you solve your entropic optimal transport problem. So this is something which takes 3 lines of code. The issue with this formulation is that you have exponential of minus the cost divided by tau, which can take very small or large values, so you can have numerical overflow if tau is quite small. So that's why often in practice I recommend to use this version, because in the log domains you control all the values. But if you want a very quick implementation which works for tau not too small, just have this matrix vector product. One other thing, okay. So if you have questions, for instance, about the computational complexity of this algorithm, we can discuss about it. I don't really want to go in this detail today, but there are many results and guarantees about that. And in fact, the most efficient way to solve the unregularized optimal transport that we know of today is just to solve the regularized optimal transport problem with with tau small enough, so that we are a good approximation of the true transport problem. Okay, so now I want to go back. That will be the end of all I wanted to say about the Schrödinger problem, the entropic optimal transport problem, how to solve it, why it has some good advantages compared to optimal transport. And we'll come back to the Schrödinger bridge problem. To our trajectory inference problem. And we'll first consider this full snapshot settings, where at each measurement time, we see the full marginal of our population. So I will discuss some estimators which have been proposed recently. Mean entropy estimators in a paper by Lavenant and co-authors in 2021, so quite recently. This is a very active topic, so the references are often quite recent. And I will first want to present it in the full snapshot setting. So what do I mean by full snapshot? This is the case where, so we have our ground truth process, if I recall the notations from yesterday. We have P, a probability measure over the space of paths. So this is our ground truth process that we would like to recover. And I recall that omega is a space of continuous functions from 0, 1 to x. And we observe Pt at certain time marginal. Pti for I equals to 1, etc., until capital T, let's say capital T is the number of time measurements. And now I realize that there is a clash of notation between the number of time measurements and the name of the entropic optimal transport problem, but I have used my slides, this notation, so I will keep it. But just notice that I use T for two different meanings. OK, so this is our problem. And here is the estimator that was proposed by these authors. It won't be surprising given what we have done so far. We minimize the relative entropy between the reconstructed measure over the set of paths that I will call R is the variable, against the law of the Brownian motion over X at temperature tau. So this is exactly like the Schrödinger problem. The Schrödinger problem, we were having the constraint that at 2 times we were matching some marginals. Here we'll just ask that we match the marginals for all this family of times. So such that RTI equals PTI for I equals 1 to T. And as usual, I like to multiply by tau so that we have a nice formula in relation to optimal transport in the end. So notice that this is really just an extension of the Schrödinger problem. Schrödinger problem, we had 2 marginals, and we were solving, minimizing the relative entropy. Now we have just more time marginals, and we want to pass through all these time marginals, and while still minimizing the entropy. And W2, if you remember, this is the law of the Wiener process. And what they show is that this estimator is consistent. So here I will not discuss the proof of this result because it's quite technical, but they have the following theorem, which is a consistency result, which tells us that this is a good idea to solve this problem. So this is under the assumption, the model that I've written yesterday, so assume that P is the law of the stochastic process I was writing yesterday. So this is dxt equals minus the gradient of a potential plus certain diffusion by a Brownian motion, and x0 follows some distribution. So x0 follow p0, where the initialization has finite entropy. So here we make some assumption on the ground truth we want to recover, and they show that when Ti, the time at which we make the measurements, become dense in the interval 0, 1, then you recover exactly P. Then as this family of points Ti becomes dense in 0, 1, so let me call R star the minimizer of this problem, which, as usual, it's unique because of strict convexity. R star converges weakly to P. So here it's not obvious because, as you remember, what we discussed yesterday is that even when we observe all the time marginals, there are many ways to pass through all these time marginals with a law of a stochastic process. And what this result tells us is that minimizing the relative entropy precisely chooses the laws of stochastic processes which are given by this formula. So the drift is given by a potential of a function which can depend on time. And we have a diffusion with temperature tau, where tau here is exactly the same as we have here and here. Okay? And in fact, so I will not discuss the proof of this result again because It involves some advanced stochastic calculus, but one argument which is used is that if you solve this problem with the constraint that RT equals to PT for all time, then you know that P is the unique minimizer. Okay, so that's how the proof works, and then they show that this the relative entropy also forces RTI to not be too irregular in between the measurement times, and so we have such a result. But now what I want to discuss is how to solve this problem in practice, because here we have an entropy between two laws on the space of paths. This sounds quite intractable, but in fact there are several reductions that will lead us to a problem which just corresponds to computing the Schrödinger bridge between pairs of marginals. So that's what I want to do now. So how to solve it? Let me call it star. So we will do a reduction of the problem. So there is a very nice lemma by Benhamou et co-authors from 2019. So the co-authors are Guillaume Carlier, Luc Anena, Simone Di Marino. And this is the same Benhamou as in the Benhamou-Brognier formula of optimal transport. They show the following, that for a law over the space of paths, we can rewrite this relative entropy as follows. So H of R against W, the law of the Wiener process. So in fact, here this lemma would work as long as we take the relative entropy with respect to a Markov process. So first, there is the reduction that we've already discussed yesterday, the additivity property of the entropy. So here, this will be always larger than the relative entropy of R, which I evaluate jointly at all the measurement times. So R evaluated, the marginals on R are on all the measurement times with respect to the law of the Wiener process. It's marginal at all measurement times also. So here, this is an inequality that we have seen yesterday where we were using conditioning. But here we can write it with more, with more measurement times. And then they show that this can be rewritten, at least is always lower bounded by the following sum of entropies. Okay. So RTI, TI plus 1. So here we can reduce this relative entropy as the relative entropy between marginals evaluated only at 2 times. So RTI, TI plus 1, W2 TI, TI plus 1. And here I will write directly the formula which is the most convenient for later. So here this will be the heat kernel, RTI product, RTI plus 1, minus some entropies of the RTIs plus a constant which is universal. So here I make the sum for I equals to 1 to T minus 1, and I add the entropies for I equals to from 1 to T. Okay, so we have these two inequalities. The first one we already know, and the second one is new. So the first one is an equality if and only if we have that the conditional distribution of the two processes match. So with equality, in the first case, this is if R is given by, like the conditional distribution of R is the one of the Wiener process. how do I write that? So, okay. x1, etc. xt drt1, etc. t dx1 dxt. So the formula are a bit long because we have this t, capital T measurements. Yes?
What do you mean by you have this W and then the tensor product of the two?
Ah, yes, what do I mean by here?
Yeah.
So here, this is the density with respect to Lebesgue of W times the product measure. So this gives a measure. I should maybe, like the true, yeah. I skipped a step because I see that the time is a bit short, but you can first write it like this, like with respect to W, and then use the change of entropy of reference measure formula to make this formula appear. But I skipped a step. But here, this is a density times a product measure. OK, so what we see from this formula, and there is also the other equality case which I need to write. So the first equality is in this case, and the second equality is if and only if this. So we have equality here if and only if this joint distribution is Markovian. And what do I mean by Markovian? I mean that it can be written, it can be decomposed as follows. So RT1, etc. T of dx1 dxt. This is T1 dx1 times or T1, T2, dx2 conditioned on x1, etc. It means I can condition on all the times, which is the standard definition of Markovianity. But the notations are a bit long. T minus 1, dxt condition on xt minus 1. Okay. And here, so we have the equality case in these inequalities. So this tells us, again, that instead of solving this complicated problem over the space of paths, it's enough to solve this problem. And here we see that this problem is only over joint distribution between pairs of marginals. We only need to solve entropic optimal transport problems because this is exactly what it is. The marginals will be fixed. These things will be a constant. And we only need to solve entropic optimal transport problem between all pairs of marginals. We need then to glue all these things together by taking the conditional distributions. This gives us this law, this joint law. And then if we really want the law on the joint path, we can just take this distribution by taking the Gaussian bridges. So this estimator, which sounds very complicated at first, it can be solved by minimizing this problem, and by the remark which I made previously about the convexity of entropic optimal transport, since I add these entropies, this is also a convex optimization problem. Let me see if there are things that I absolutely need to say before the pause. Yeah, we have. I will conclude, since we are reaching the end of my time, I will conclude on this right after the lunch, and then we will move to the case where we don't have the full snapshots, but only sparse snapshots, which is, let's say, the final word of the story, because this is the most challenging case. And we'll see that a similar problem can be solved, and that's the one which we'll be using in practice. So I think that's I've reached the end of my time. Yeah. Yes.
Maybe you will talk about this afternoon, but how would you do to observe all the people from PTIs in practice?
So in practice, you don't observe PTI. So this case is just to progress little by little towards the realistic case, which is the case where we don't observe the full marginal. And we'll see it's more complicated, so that's why I wanted to go step by step. Yeah. Yes?
How do you compute temperature if you cannot follow a particle?
That's a good question. So here, in everything I say, we assume that there is a prior that tells us, okay, the temperature should be this. In fact, in practice, what you do is that you realize that everything becomes more stable and more efficient computationally when tau increases, because tau is part of the modelization, but also when tau is larger, the problem becomes easier. We have faster computation of the algorithms, better stability. And so in practice, you just choose tau, which is convenient for you, given the computational power you have. I mean, that's what we have done so far, because there must be there must be some methods when you are able to track one particle. But if you are not able to track one particle, I think you have to guess or to use the tau which is convenient in practice for your computations. Yeah. Thank you.